Hello, I'm Laura Furiosi, divorced mother of 3, and I'm here with my mother, Lynette Galvin, with 35 years' experience in family law. You're listening to the Divorce Course podcast. Through our candid discussions, we hope to help you through your divorce or de facto separation. We will be answering the most commonly asked questions and covering the stages and steps that you will face on your way to freedom. Hello, and welcome to the Divorce Course podcast. Are you freaking out about your divorce? Well, we've got 5 amazing tips that you can hang on to that Mum is going to talk you through today so that you feel less freaked out about what's going on currently. Because let's face it, Mum, everybody goes through a freak out moment during their divorce.
At least one.
Yeah.
At least one.
So welcome, Mum, and thank you for sharing your wisdom. And now you've told me these are the kind of pep talks and little calm down chats you have with your clients, basically.
Yes. They're things that I think people need to hear. And so it'll be good if our listeners can remember them and dredge them up when they're having a panic.
Yeah. Okay. So save this episode for when you're feeling like you're going to freak out, and you can re-listen to it later and it might help you.
Or share it with someone.
Yeah. That's right. Let's just go straight in, Mum.
Mm-hmm.
The first one, point number 1, and we are mindful that there are people who are listening that have ex-partners who are female as well.
Mm-hmm.
But it's number 1, he's not that special. He's special, but he or she is not that special.
That's right. He's special.
What do you mean by this?
He's special, but not that special. And that is, whilst you think your ex-partner is doing stuff that's just so awful and you're sure that it's the first time anyone's ever done this in the family court, I've got news for you. The court's been going for, I think, 47 years, and everything that can be tried on has been tried on, and the court has worked out ways to deal with those. So no matter how revolting your ex is, we will get through it, and you can get through it, and don't be surprised.
So if you've got an avoidant ex who we've talked about before, where they just don't do anything, don't freak out, the court's dealt with these people before.
We have ways. Yep, we all have ways.
If you've got a super high conflict person that we've talked about before, don't worry, the court's got ways. High manipulative and controlling, the court's got ways.
Yes.
So give me some examples, Mum. Have there been times where the court's gone, sorry, I put you on the spot.
You have really.
Give me an example where the court's gone, wait, we don't know how to deal with this. And so they've changed some stuff.
I don't think we've changed laws so much, but I do remember sometimes going to court with a really unusual set of, shall we say, submissions to make, and the court looks and listens, usually reserves judgment, comes back and goes, oh, yes, you can do that. So I'm thinking, for example, of one where someone was pursuing someone for child support through the courts, and there'd been several judges, several lawyers involved, and then I looked at it and said, hang on, this should be with the child support agency. Made the submission to the judge, and he goes, oh, you might be right. So went away and had a look, and we were. But, the client was being dragged through the hedge backwards. In this case, it was a male client. He was really being pressured. But the only failing sometimes is that lawyers don't remember that the court has ways to deal with these things. So, yes, so that was just dismissed straight away once the judge had thought about it. Yeah.
So there's systems in place.
Yep.
You think your ex might be super special or super nasty or super avoidant
or super clever. Some people go, you don't know how clever he is. Well, those lawyers, judges don't get up there by being stupid. So, they're the brains in the room.
And they have changed the way you divorce, like the paperwork, didn't you say? That in the old days you had to have a reason?
Oh, that was before the Family Law Act came around. So in the old days, under the Matrimonial Causes Act of 1939, which was before my time, of course, yes, you had to prove desertion or cruelty or adultery, which is where you see those movies where they have cameramen sneak in and take a photo of them in bed with someone else to get their divorce. So now in Australia, the only grounds for divorce is separated for 12 months. The marriage is broken down irretrievably, and the only way you can prove it is separated for 12 months. So I always say, if your ex really puts everything in front of the court as a way of obstruction, you will get divorced and you will get your outcome.
Yeah. And that leads us into number 2. Point number 2 was you don't actually need the ex-partner to do anything. You can do everything. The court will do everything, and you can get to the end goal even if they shut their eyes and scream and kick the whole way.
Yep, shut their eyes, fold their arms and turn their back on you. You can still get your divorce. We don't need people are using joint divorces a lot now, but if you've got one of those special exes, maybe you want to do the divorce yourself. So you become the applicant, and the court has ways to deal with any non-cooperation from the other side, and you'll come out and you will have taken your divorce. You're not having to be given a divorce by your ex. Same with every other process in the court. There's opportunities there if he doesn't engage for the court to make orders by default or in their absence. So that's
children's orders and property orders. If they're super difficult and you're freaking out thinking, oh my goodness, like you were saying, Mum, this is 2022, if you're listening to that now, or this is the next year, and I still haven't got my final orders. I still haven't sorted out, how the kids are going to go on for. It's like that can be really soul destroying to someone thinking who got themselves through last year going, I've just got to get this done and I'll be finished by the year. And next year I'll be able to live my life.
It's just like COVID.
It
pops back up again.
Damn it. So basically, it can be really disheartening, and you could have a freak out when you're like, okay, it's next year. Why is this not over?
Still on the
it's
roundabout.
Never going to be over.
Yes.
Do you have clients saying this is never going to end?
Yes. So we workshop ways for that to not be so bad for them. I mean, it will end. The court will end it. That's the only guarantee you've absolutely got. The court will make an order, and it will divide your property, or it will make an arrangement for the kids. It's just hanging on until you get to that stage sometimes for people. Yeah.
And also for people that aren't in the courts, maybe they're frustrated because it's not ending because they haven't done anything. That's another thing. If you haven't actually proactively gone out to do it, which we'll be talking about in a minute as well, that can be really frustrating, and it's time to just go, you know what, we're going to get this done. And now, Mum, you've also talked in the past about the practice manage the new family court practice
practice directions. Yes. So
and their goal is what?
The fast, or the quick and the cost-effective resolution of disputes, so people can get on with their lives.
Okay.
And so they're very focused. It's wonderful, and I'm seeing it in the court. It only came in September 2021, and at the time of this recording, it's February 2022. But we're already seeing a change in the way that the court is dealing with stuff. They're putting a big emphasis on early intervention, a big emphasis on mediation. But that point you made before, where people don't go to court and then they complain court took so long, and in your mind, like as the person who's left, I get it. It was from the day you walked out, it's been 3 years or whatever. But actually, it's taking that. Our course talks all about trying to get a agreement or a mediation and get your orders by consent. Once you've done all that, then, and they fit perfectly with the new practice direction, try really hard to get an agreement. Once you've done that, then if you file your proceedings, then the court is getting quicker at getting them to a conclusion. So you should be before a judge within a couple of months, and that focuses everyone's mind. And then you might have more compulsory mediation. So the hope of the court and the hope of us is that the court will be much quicker now and cost effective, rather than dragging it out.
So if you're sitting in the car having a bit of a cry, going, this is never going to end, or this isn't over, be reassured the courts changed their approach, and their main aim is to get these sorted as soon as possible in the best and easiest way. So that's something to help you if you're struggling right now.
I think it's been their goal, their stated goal for a long time, but I think the new guidelines seem to make that happen. So it's like once you get in the court, you've got your ex in a tractor beam and they're being drawn in, whether they want, that's right, and whether they want it or not, then towards the end. So, that's a very, positive thing you can do. And some people think going to court, when they hear about court costs of hundreds of thousands, God help them. They think you've got to pay that up front before you can put a document in the court, but that's not the case. So once you've tried your mediations, you get your documents in, and you can do them yourself or get a lawyer to help you. That's only a few $1,000s to start. I know it's only, but at least it gets the ball rolling. And if you do it yourself, it's about $1,000. That's right. And if you're on Centrelink, your filing fee is, I think, $0, or at least a hardship fee.
Close to zero.
Close to zero. Yeah. So that's a way you can take control and get the ball rolling.
Yes. And I'd like to say, and the judge's aim,
it's just to get it off his or her desk. So they just want to finish it. And so that's two of you wanting to finish it. Do you know?
Everybody wants to finish it, maybe not you.
That's right. Yeah. But you're getting, if you go to court, you're on team, get it finished.
Many hands make light work. So that leads me kind of down. So if you're freaking out, oh my God, he's going to take me to court, or she's going to take me to court, and court is like in the movies and theatre, it just seems like you only go there if you're super rich, and you've got a team of lawyers like Mr. Burns.
And dramatic arm wavings and,
But you can go and represent yourself. You can go in there, and the judges are used to it, aren't they, Mum? They know there are people that can't afford lawyers, and you're still offered a duty lawyer most times, aren't you, Mum?
You are.
Yeah.
And
they do it for free for you.
They do. They may not do the talking, but you can write yourself out a little script, and we talk about that, and just prepare yourself and do it. I mean, you're smart people. This generation are smart. It's easy to get the information about what you need from our podcast or our course or whatever, and you just go in and do it. And we know people, website. Laura, who've been doing it. And I love. We've
had people writing in who listen to this podcast. Hey, Mum, that have said, I've done this, I'm self-representing on this, because it is, even though it initially is intimidating, you get used to it. And I think these people have now realised, okay, I can take control of this. The threat of court doesn't have to see dollar signs and freak out. You can just go, okay, take it one step at a time. Yep. How can we get through this? What's the next thing I have to do? What's the next thing I have to do?
Perfect.
And the beauty of court doing all that kind of paperwork stuff is usually, if you're the one who's initiating, there's no deadline. It's like an assignment.
Yep.
It might take you 2 weeks. It might take you a month, but just have a little go at it and keep working through it. And on the day of court, just go in and give it your best shot. And the judges are extra nice to you because you're not represented by a lawyer.
But they are. They're very tolerant. If you've made a goof up and your normal job is a teacher or an engineer or whatever, or you stay at home mum.
Not a lawyer. Yeah.
They're very, very kind to you, really, and guide you.
Isn't there a rule that they have to be extra understanding because of that?
There are guidelines they have to follow, yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so let's get on to number 3.
Okay.
And this is for people who are freaking out because they've gotten a threatening email, a threatening text, and we're not talking about domestic violence.
No.
We're talking about, and that's a completely different thing. And if you've gotten threatening texts or threatening emails that are about your personal safety, you go straight to the police, give them a call, 1-800-RESPECT, reach out, get some help. Yep. But if we're talking about threats where they say, I'm going to do X, Y, Z, I'm going to file this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to take the kids, I'm going to do this or whatever, Mum, your point for number 3 was their threats don't always end in reality.
Yep. Cheer up. It might not happen. Particularly if they've been controlling through the relationship, they know they like to say things that make you upset and that cause you stress. So usually they don't turn into anything, and particularly because the court's got so many what they call pre-action procedures. So before you file, you've got to do this, you've got to do this, you've got to do this. And sometimes they just fire off these, we're going to take you to court, we're going to do this. It doesn't make it true, and it doesn't mean it will happen.
It's not reality until it happens.
It's just their posture, their posing. So, It's not till it happens. That's right.
Yeah. But I understand, to all our listeners, if you have a controlling and a manipulative or high conflict, it can be a trigger because you're not fighting at home. You've obviously separated. But if there's a threat or a trigger, and it might make you immediately think, okay, I'll give in, I'll do exactly, which might not be in your best interest or the child's best interest, because you're afraid of something that hasn't happened yet. It is a really important time to remind yourself that threats don't end in reality, and worry about that if it happens.
If it happens. So 2 points there. One is, there's an old saying that a coward dies 1,000 deaths, but a brave person only once. So there's
Mum
that.
used to say that to me my whole life before swimming carnivals.
Did I?
Yeah. I'm scared. And you're like, Laura, the coward dies 100 deaths. But it's true.
1,000 deaths. Yep. And
1,000 deaths.
Yeah. So that's one. And the other thing is that if they've been throughout the relationship, like saying they're going to do this, saying they're going to do that, and you're normally reacting, you've got to get out of that pattern. They're just doing the same thing. And they might have an unscrupulous lawyer doing the same thing, yes. And so you can't control them. You've just got to control your reactions to it.
And sometimes it might be a good idea to go back and have a look at other threats you've received in the past.
Yes.
And say, did anything happen from that?
Yep.
Did they follow up on that? And if the answer is no, then it's probably a good indication it is a pattern of behaviour, and it's a way they're trying to maybe freak you out.
Absolutely. And the same goes for their urgency. Oh, we want your response by 4 p.m. on the 7th or 6 p.m. Their urgency
Whose deadline is that?
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, sometimes there might be a reason where you need to go and get some quick legal advice if you haven't already got it. For instance, if there's company stuff involved. But generally, their urgency and their demands aren't necessarily your urgency and your demands. So
unless there's a cut-off date for a court document or something for responding, totally get that.
That's like an assignment.
If they say you must get back to me by 5 p.m. on Friday next week, you can go
or else.
Or what?
What's your so Laura, it's hard to remember stuff that's happened since separation. In those early stages, you're trying to feed the kids, get the kids to school, to bed, look after the house, probably move, deal with all this. Like, it's a blur and it's all new. And you might forget some of those threats that you won't forget how they make you feel, but that you might forget some actual threats. So here's a tip. If you've got someone on the other side who tends to make all these threats, get a book, rule a line down. I'm talking about, and it's good to handwrite it in a notebook because it apparently
physical
affects
memory.
Your brain.
Yeah.
And write down date in one side and the threat and the outcome. And if you do that, date, he threatened this, and did he do it? No. And then that will give you something concrete to look back at and go, you know what, because the odds are that this isn't going to be, nothing's going to happen on this one either.
And I think there is a big emphasis in the dramatic breakups where people that's what they can threaten court. I'm going to do court.
I'm going to take you to court.
I'm going to take you to court. So, Mum, explain the process to anyone who's freaking out. They're going to take me to court. What is the process, the first couple of steps that taking to court actually means?
Well, they have to show that they have to write you a letter, invite you to mediation, unless it's urgent, okay? They have to have proper sharing of documents if it's a property matter, and then usually there'll be a mediation or counselling. And that's before you can file for children's matters. And with property matters, they want you to have had the same thing. And if you get to court and you haven't had it, guess what? So going to court is just really filing about probably 15 pages of documents. That's all it is, right? And some of them are cover pages. So it's an application, little affidavit, and maybe a financial statement. So that's going to court, getting that in the court, paying your filing fee. That's it. And then if they do that after they've done all their, mediation offers, letters, negotiations, you get to court.
So you have to sit through family mediation and do that as well.
For children stuff, and for property, if they don't the court would be very critical of them and probably send them straight back to mediation. And even if you've done it all, and remember our convincing the unconvincible, when your mediation fails, you think, oh, well, you go to court and you go, well, Your Honour, the mediation failed, and the judge will go, oh, really? Well, let's try this one. And he sends you off to someone else. So, it just...
So going to court is really a lot of hard work.
It's a little step, but it's a step.
But it's something they have to be very organised and determined. So don't freak out and think, oh, my goodness, I'm going to go to court, because really what's the date between filing and actually a final trial, Mum?
Oh, I think it's much less than it used to be. So I can't say for sure because, as I said, it only started in September, but they're aiming with it between 6 to 12 months. Do you know, if someone files in the court, they had better want the matter to end, because that's what the whole pressure and focus is going to be. So if you've got an ex who loves fighting, they're probably not going to go to court, because it's going to lose. Then they can't keep. That's right.
Because once you have your court orders, it's set in concrete, and you can't fight about things.
In property, children's matters not so much. You have interim children's, but your final children's orders are final unless there's been a change in circumstances. And we talk about that case, Rice and Asplen. It has to be a big change.
And we've done that.
Yeah. And you talk to a lawyer first. Yeah.
So don't freak out. Their threats don't necessarily ever end in reality, and don't let them spook you.
No.
Do what you think is best for you. Do what you think is just and right. Follow the law and protect your interests, and don't let them bully you into doing things because they're going to take you to court.
Yeah, go and see a lawyer. And get that advice.
So number 4, you've said be proactive, not reactive.
Yeah. So if you're buffeted by emails from them, and or you might ask them something in an email, and you just know he's going to say no, and then he says no, and you go, just takes all of the wind out of your sails. So instead of that, what I do with my clients, and what I think you should do, if you need to write a letter, say, will you sign these documents so our child can go to this school, right? When you're sending it, think, okay, I'm going to have plan A and plan B. If he doesn't send it back, or if he does send it back, that's plan A, that's good. If he doesn't send it back by such and such a date, and put that date in your letter, then the minute that day is over and you go, okay, well, I'm on to, and you have a plan B, so that you don't do the in the middle, because I find that can slow everything down by weeks while you work out what to do. And also, if you know what your plan B is going to be, you can put that at the bottom of the letter as a consequence.
So you can say, and if you don't do whatever, this is my next step that I'll be taking.
And I'll do it. And sometimes if people, when I'm writing and they might not believe me, I would say to you, and I do it myself, I draft the document up and attach it to the letter and say, if I don't hear from you, this is the application I'll be filing. And then you are able to do it the minute, that deadline. So when you want to do something, say you need to write a letter to get them to, say, sign up for a school or something, or sign this document so our child can go on an excursion, have a date and a time by which you expect an answer. And if they answer, that's good. That's your plan A. Okay, and you know what you're going to do. If you get that back, you're going to take the steps to send little Johnny on an excursion. But you also should have a plan B, because if not, when you don't get an answer back, or you get an answer back saying no, it's like
even before that, it's when you send the letter, you spend the whole week freaking out that they're not going to send the results.
Yep, you're
like, oh my God, they're not going to respond. What am I going to do if they don't respond? So to eliminate that, what am I going to do if they?
Yeah, that's true.
You have that plan already.
That's right. So you have an either or plan, so that you're confident that you're moving your case forward, whether they do one thing or nothing or whatever. Okay,
so you send the letter.
Send the letter,
Johnny,
and you say, well, it's up to them. if I get it back, well and good. If I don't get it back, then I've got this plan to make it happen, which is generally a court event or something,
mediation, or another letter. You have a second letter ready to go.
That's right. Yeah. Or you have a document ready to file. So you don't give your power, your life back to that person. Then you're keeping power and keeping your control.
Because every time you ask a question or you need something from a controlling or manipulative person, they're like, yes,
yay.
I can use this and freak them out or make them stressed. Or that's that story we hear so much from all of these women and men that are dealing with this. They're quite happy to write you letters and demand things all the time, but if you ask them something, it's like, oh, I've got something to control them with, and I can make them freak out. So definitely have that second plan, like Mum said. That's a great. It's powerful. That's a great idea.
It gives you power, and it means you're not left in limbo and in the hands of someone who doesn't have your best interests at heart.
Now, I think being proactive and not reactive also, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, comes into play with just the whole divorce process in general.
Yep, it does.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So how would you describe someone being proactive in the divorce process and settlement process?
I think you need to find out what you want. Go and see that lawyer, set your goalposts, set out the steps. It's like any other project. What do I have to do to get this done? And
what's my goal?
My goal? What do I have to do to get it done? Okay, I have to get the house valued. Okay, I'll write and ask him if he agrees to get the house valued. But I've got plan B. If he doesn't want the house valued, then I will do this, or I will get 3 real estate agents to look at it from the road, or I will talk to the agent we bought it from. So you've got your plan. Then move on to whatever the next step is. Okay, I need to go to I'm going to get orders in the court. I need to serve him. Oh, he might not let me serve him if I send it by post. If I'm getting a divorce, to send it by post, he might not acknowledge it. But that's all right, because I'll use this person to deliver them to him 28 days before the divorce. So everything you do, you've got your plan A and plan B. And like I said, or like we said, if he is completely uncooperative, or she is completely uncooperative, you can get your way through the process, but you can't reach agreement without them. But, you can set everything up ready for court and ultimately for mediations.
And if you're happy with the way you are living right now and you're happy with everything, then don't do anything. But if you're unhappy with it, don't sit there waiting for them to do it, because it might not happen.
Do you know our busiest time of the year was always in late January, early February, where people, I think that date clicking over, yet another Christmas, and I still haven't sorted out things with him or her, means people get up and do stuff. And once you start, you can get it to an end, but you've got to make up your mind to start and have a plan. It's like anything else. Just have a plan and make it your case. You're not putting it in their hands to release you from this situation. You're taking control.
It's my life, that song.
I like
It's
that.
now or never. Okay, and lastly,
this
Mum.
is my fight song.
Number 5. It's always a good idea to have a good song.
It is.
Number 5, especially if you're freaking out, have that song that really gives you that motivation, that confidence, just build you back up again, and listen to it in the car on loud, and just build your confidence back up. And something about songs, not everyone's a music person, but it does tend to sometimes lift you.
And I know you had Shearer dolls everywhere, the 80s child.
Yes.
And you know what I had? I had a little lion.
Yeah, there you go.
It's just like your little token.
Surround yourself with motivation and remind yourself, I'm starting to freak out. What are some techniques I can use to help myself?
And what do I have to remember?
As well as reality checking by listening to this, what can I do to calm myself down?
Yeah.
The last one, Mum, and I think this is the most important, the one that you tell people is live your life focus forwards.
Yep.
What do you mean by that?
Get on with your life. I've had people say, should I have a baby? I want to have a baby, but I want to wait until after the divorce. Or we want to get married. We have to wait till after the divorce for that. But, I'm thinking of studying for uni, but I'm waiting till all this is over. I hear stories of people saying that the court case is taking all of their time. I don't see how that can possibly be. I think keep it in its box. The drama of it, in a little frame of time, and the rest of the time you live your best life, because, you know, who knows how long we've got left. And you're
true.
out, you've gone to all this trouble to free yourself from living in that environment. Now get out and enjoy it, starting now. Start now, and it'll give you the mental strength to move forward, you know.
Yeah,
and I won't give them any satisfaction by you moping. If you mope around, they'll love it.
and yeah, giving them power over your life after you've made the decision to finally leave from all that. It kind of counterintuitive.
I don't think it's giving the power. It's you've left, but you still haven't reclaimed all of your power. And they take those people who want to control it, they take some re-education as well. They've got to learn that they can't tell you what to do.
And I think, especially living your life and focus forwards if you've got kids,
yes.
It's not going to help your children if you're spending all your time thinking about and talking about the past and maybe your old house or, all that kind of stuff. It's not going to help them move forward. No. So you've got to try and show them, look at, yes, you live in 2 houses, but look at this. We get to do this, or, you get 2 Christmases, or focusing on the positives and focusing forwards. And the one thing that I've learned is what you focus on grows. Yeah. So if you want to sit there and focus on all the negative and the drama or whatever you're going through and the freaking out, that's going to grow.
It's like a little black cloud on your head. Yeah.
Or focus on the possibilities, like you always say, Mum, for people that are sad about selling their home, go and look at some homes and focus on the future. Take the kids with you to look at them and get them excited and, that kind of that kind of vibe.
I always remember this, like kids remember things from about 3 on and then they're really sort of switched on from about 5. By the time they're 13 or 14, their focus is away from you and they're looking at their friends. So their childhood is so short. And their childhood is the time that you have them is probably 7 or 8 years where it's their formative years, and that they actually still want to go out with you. They're not embarrassed if you turn up.
They want to read a story with you.
They want you. And if you spend those years or even 4 years, so half their time, that's what I think. I think you've only got about 8 years of really fun times with the kids before they turn into teenagers. How dare you,
Mother? We still have fun.
Yes, but your childhood.
Yes, I know. I'm not a kid anymore. That's true.
If you talk about, like our listeners, when you say when I was a kid, you really mean between probably grade 1 and high school.
Yeah.
So that's 7 or 8 years. If you spend 4 years fighting this, then half their childhood's tainted by this if you don't keep it in its box. So live your life, keep it in its box. It's not something happening to you. It's just something that's happening.
Change.
Yeah, it's change.
And you're moving forward.
And we're all testimony that you can get through it, and it's great on the other side. Yeah. There's a reason you split up.
Yeah, and Mum, I think you're right. And, we decided to do this episode because, we can give you lots of help and Mum can give you lots of tips. But the one thing that seems to get in everybody's way is this sense of hopelessness and freaking out and sometimes, especially at the beginning of the year, oh, my God, we've just gotten to 2022 and it's still happening. So it's really good. Remind yourself, they're special. They're not that special. The court has seen it all. You don't need them to do anything. You can get all this done without them. They will literally be dragged the whole way through. It just might take a bit longer.
Yep.
Their threats don't always end up in reality, so don't freak out about threats until they happen. And that's, of course, a DV. You go straight to the police.
Absolutely.
Call 1-800-RESPECT. That's
Take
a different
them seriously
type of threat.
with DV, yeah.
Be proactive, not reactive. It's your life. It's at your control. Make a plan when you ask for something. Have your backup plan. Don't sit there going, oh, what if they don't? What if they don't? Have your backup plan and know what if they don't. And you'll feel so much better in yourself.
Yep.
And live your life and focus forwards.
Yes.
And I know this isn't a psychologist podcast,
it's not.
But, Mum, you do find a lot of times that if this stuff gets in the way, your clients maybe don't have a clear head to make decisions and focus on working?
It's harder for them. So when you're feeling really down, and one lady said to me once, "Well, every time I get a letter from your firm, I can't open it." I thought, "Oh my God!" So go to counselling. I always try to write something nice in the headlines, in the subject line. Now, great news, or
surprise!
Yeah.
Here's a chocolate, and now here's the bad stuff.
But yes, so you need to have yourself strong if you're going to still have this lovely life with your children. Manage to keep this thing in its box, but deal with it. You might need the help of a psychologist. You may even need to think about whether if your doctor recommends something to take during this process, don't be embarrassed. You've got to be your best self as you go through this, and then you'll get your best outcome.
Yay. And then hopefully you won't need to listen to this podcast anymore and you can live your beautiful life.
Yes, I'll be sick of us.
Yeah. Now, I'm sorry, Mum, I made it a non-legally legal one, but I thought that was necessary because we're getting so many messages from people that are freaking out. So we send our love to everyone who listens, and we really wish you the best of luck. Thank you, Mum, for sharing that.
No worries. Thanks, Laura. Bye, everyone.
Bye. If you found this podcast helpful, we'd love it if you could rate, review and subscribe. By doing so, you are spreading the word to help someone else just like you. Lynn would like to remind you that this podcast is general advice only, and you should always get legal advice in relation to your particular situation. And remember that the Australian laws may have changed since recording.